Hey folks, welcome to a podcast about Catholic things. This is Eric, the ambassador of common sense, and I'm here with...
Dan, the ambassador of nonsense. Welcome, everyone.
Okay, last week we said we would look up Pope Francis's indulgences and try to clarify them. And I did look it up.
I didn't do that. Did you?
I could find no clarification.
Well, one thing I can offer is this. I should have thought of this while we were looking at them last week. There are no articles in Latin. So there would be no distinction in Latin between how you would say the indulgence or an indulgence.
Oh.
Secondly, whoever is translating it to English could be thinking of the indulgence the way you think of, like, the Mass. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, you know, you go to Mass lots, but it's the Mass. And so they could be using the same kind of terminology for that.
Yeah.
So that's my take on the Pope Francis wording on that.
Yeah. Well, we still really have no idea what it means.
Yeah.
And looking up Pope Francis and things that Pope Francis says, I'll tell you what. Okay, you know what he reminds me of? AOC.
Okay. Yeah, I know who AOC is.
Okay. This is apparently a quote from Pope Francis about Judas. I do not claim that Judas is in heaven and saved, but I do not claim the opposite.
Okay. There's lots of people who, even in spite of Jesus's almost certain words, I would say certain words, hesitate to go there.
Well, what else could his words mean?
Well, I can't think of anything else. but there are some people who say that even in spite of what seems to be clarity in that case, they say that the church still says you should never absolutely presume on any individual person's soul, any specific person's soul, as being in hell.
Except for Judas, because...
I always thought that exception applied. Yeah, he kind of said, yeah, he's
He also says, does this mean Judas is in hell? I don't know. I look at the gospel, and he calls him friend, and he kisses him. That's his line of thought there.
How stupid is that?
I don't know.
How did this guy get to be Pope?
I don't know. It's weird. But, okay, here's the thing. It seems like a lot of the documented exorcisms include Judas.
Oh, really? I did not know that.
Yeah. Well, a lot of the documented ones that I've read. Maybe there's a bunch more that I haven't read. But there's a lot of times there's a guy claiming to be Judas.
Okay. That's...
I think it's a fair assumption.
I always thought it was a fair assumption, but here's the thing that here's why I suspect that might not be true. I don't think there's any actual teaching on this, but I would hesitate to believe that human souls have the capacity to possess the same way demons do.
Right. Okay.
So it might be demons who work in association with Judas or something like that.
There's two schools of thought. One is that this is the demon that bothered Judas.
Oh, okay. He's
but he
Judas
always
by way of his demonic mission, so to speak.
But he always acts as though he actually... Whenever you hear one of these entities claim to be a human person, they never say that, though. They always say the person, and they always reveal things that you would assume only that person would know.
Which would make sense if that person was in hell. The demons would certainly...
Right.
But demons and devils know everything, everything that we know, that about our lives and everything else. So
here's what I kind of believe, though. I believe that when demons possess a person, they drag souls of the damned with them as advisors. Because the demons don't understand bodies. They understand cause and effect, but they don't they don't understand what hunger is, and they don't know why it would tempt us. So
they don't know what it's like to have a body and have appetites and so on and so forth.
Right.
Or even to have thoughts. They don't really know what it's like to puzzle through anything because knowledge doesn't work that way for them.
And I don't know if we it's a teaching or not, but I've always thought that thinking and reasoning continues after death. Whether in heaven or in hell, I don't know.
Only in our resurrected state, and the reason is because the act of reasoning is, even though it's closely bound with the faculties of will and intellect, which are faculties of the soul, the reasoning itself, the working out of, syllogisms and inductions and deductions and all that kind of stuff, and the processing of from step to step to step, is a mechanical process of the brain in cooperation with the faculties of the soul. So without a physical brain, you don't have the capacity for reason in that sense.
Okay. Well, anyway, it's just a weird thing for a pope to say.
It is a weird thing.
And I could not find any real clarification on and it's almost as if nobody even bothered to ask, and I find that really weird.
Yeah, but Pope is the one. Who's that guy that interviews him? Eugenio Scalfari or whatever, the Italian guy, the Italian old guy that never takes notes. And according to him, the Pope said, well, I think maybe hell's not a real thing because it just seems contradictory to the spirit of the gospel or something like that. I forget exactly how he worded it, but something real stupid or goofy like that.
Well, if hell's not a real thing,
and the Pope never corrected him on that.
Maybe purgatory's not a real thing either.
Oh, yeah.
According to Pope Francis.
We all just go straight to heaven.
Maybe this is just... Maybe this whole indulgence thing is nonsense to him. But even if it is, by granting it, he's still granting it. It still applies. That's the weird thing. That kind of reminds me of your idea. Maybe he will consecrate Russia to Mary's Immaculate Heart.
thinking he's doing it by in order to praise Russia's recommitment to communism or something like that.
Yeah.
Of course, I don't know.
These are AOC moves,
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Well, anyway, but I guess we will someday have to do a show with just a list of the indulgences that people can get.
Yeah, aside from the Year of St. Joseph.
Okay, but today we're talking about ancient religions and artifacts.
Our discussion
I don't think
of
we should
demons
limit
plays
it
into that.
Huh?
Well, the discussion of demons plays into that.
Yeah.
Because, what really kind of brought it to my mind is, it's like, oh yeah, I've kind of heard about those, you go to Hawaii, you get on a vacation, and sometimes they do the things where you sit out on the beach and they have the fire dances and stuff like that. And but something I heard, don't know if it's true or not, is that a lot of these fire dances and stuff are actually ritual worship dances to the old gods of Hawaii. And it got me to thinking, well, is that okay to watch that, to be present for it? I mean, would you, if somebody says, hey, I'm going to go, I've got this dinner that I have at my house, and it's actually a dinner in honor of Shiva, my Hindu god, but I'd like you to come eat with us. Okay, I don't think that would be okay.
Right.
And so then that got me to thinking, okay, so there's a participatory level at which it's definitely not okay. And then that is what got me to thinking about the level of knowledge and stuff in maybe both contemporary and ancient, religious practices, but especially ones that maybe do things that we might consider macabre, whether it's various kinds of strange animal sacrifices, by strange I mean that they would do things beyond just what the Israelites did or something, or even like human sacrifices. You read about the ancient cultures with human sacrifices. Well, would you want to visit a Mayan ruins and actually see the altar on which humans were sacrificed? It would be, and that's where I started getting kind of sort of pulled back and forth, because on the one hand, yeah, I have to admit to a certain fascination to be able to go and see that kind of stuff. But why? What good would it do me personally, especially in any sense of spiritual journey? The knowledge that it happened tells me how, dark human society can go, and serves as a warning against, straying from the gospel. But
so how did we know that it happened? Do we know that by studying these things?
Well, I just pulled Mayans as an example. I don't know that they really did or didn't. But for example, we know that Moloch, so some of the ancient gods in the Canaanite area, we know that they had child sacrifice, because Abraham was even asked by God to do it, which Abraham didn't think it all that. Who knows what he thought, but he went along with it because it didn't come out of the blue to him in a sense like, wait a minute, what are you talking about? Nobody does that. It's something that was going on around him. Okay, so if you were like, if you were on a pilgrimage to the Holy Land, a pilgrimage would never stop at a site of a Baal, oven for throwing children into, or whatever, however it is they sacrificed them. I don't know. But even if if it wasn't a pilgrimage, you had an opportunity to visit one. Like I said, there's a sort of a dark fascination that I have to admit I would have. But is it okay to give into that as a Christian, or was it like, well, wait a minute, no, I don't want to make it on my list to associate myself with that, even by way of just visiting it. And that's what kind of got me to thinking about the overall question.
You got movies like The Exorcist, where towards the beginning of the movie is the priest digging up ancient ruins, and he finds that little statue, and we're supposed to kind of associate the possession with that statue because it appears at the end when he's it comes like in a vision while he's going through the exorcism. We're supposed to think that this demon came from that statue somehow.
So how did that associate with the girl?
Because he's the one who ends up being the exorcist for the girl.
Oh, I know, but she
maybe
was possessed before he got there, before he became part of the picture.
No, she gets possessed. She gets possessed, and then of course the lady goes to the local priest, who goes to the local bishop, and the bishop says, "Well, Father so-and-so could do it. He's done it before, and he's here in town."
Okay, so and he had that statue with him. Well,
he would have been the one that they went to,
right? Okay.
Because he was there. So I assume that's what the writer was trying. I never read the book, but I assume that's what the movie director was trying to push.
Well, that makes
sense. But it does.
To tell you the truth, I've never watched the movie either. So.
Oh, okay. You know what? There is a saving grace for that, because I think it's one of the best. I think it's one of the only scary movies ever made. But it disturbed me a lot to know that they had this little girl say these terrible, terrible things.
Oh,
I found out
a real actor had to do that.
She didn't.
Oh, really?
It wasn't the little girl who said these things, and it wasn't her who did the nasty things that you would never have a little girl do on screen.
Yeah.
It was an older actress who, maybe even actor, still, I don't know. But
somebody did them.
She did not. Somebody did do it. You're right, but it wasn't a little girl, and that kind of, I don't know. For people who would not watch it because of that, myself,
yeah,
I didn't want to watch it anymore after I started thinking about this, and now that I know this, it's easier to watch the movie, because I think it is a good movie.
Mm-hmm.
In that it really shows the evil of Satan.
Yeah.
Anyway, but there's other stories like the monkey's hand or something. Is it in there a monkey's hand
paw.
and monkey's paw?
Yeah, that's a
there's things like that.
Out of that. Yeah.
But these are all connections to old paganistic rituals,
artifacts, right?
Which case there would be some kind of demon attached to them, and if you have that artifact, now you're possibly opening yourself up for some kind of attack.
Well, and that's the thing. It's this attachment of demons to artifacts, I think, is a real thing. And I don't know whether there's something about human labor that for example, a demon wouldn't. Maybe it's because there has to be some kind of intentionality. If it's not a living thing like a pig or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But for example, if you just pick up a cool rock on the beach and say, "Oh, there's a cool rock, I'm going to take it home," well, a demon wouldn't be able to attach himself to that and therefore come into your house that way or something like that.
Right.
So these are things that people created, but they created for pagan purposes, for the purposes of being idols or fetishes for their gods or whatever.
Right.
And I think because of that, demons can attach themselves to these things. So if you wouldn't want to bring something like that into your house, but what about
a university
what about
or
looking
a
at
museum?
it in a museum? Yeah, if you're in the museum, it's like, oh wow, that's really fascinating. And if you focus a lot of attention on it and its details and its purpose and that kind of stuff, and you really become interested. Does that open you up in a way?
The highlight of our annual trip to the museum here in Cincinnati was seeing the shrunken head. That was the best thing to me. I love to see that shrunken head.
Mm-hmm.
Aunt Berta used to take us like once a year.
Yeah,
and
this was before the museum moved to the Union Terminal.
Yeah, it was the old.
It used to be
Natural History
over
Museum
in Eden Park. Yeah, or close to Eden Park.
I think I like the old one better.
Me too.
I don't know. The new one's pretty neat.
I mean, the new one has some
neat.
Cool stuff.
It has other stuff, though, because you can visit, like, old Cincinnati, and you can see... they've got a giant display of what Cincinnati looked like. I don't know what year that's supposed to be, like maybe 1920. Mm-hmm. It's pretty neat.
Well,
anyway,
are you talking about the mural?
No, it's a giant, like a model, like a train set.
Oh, okay.
But it's the entire hill there of, I guess that it's like the downtown area and some of the surrounding area, like Clifton and going up into Western Hills, I think.
Huh. Yeah, I haven't been there since they've had that. Yeah, it's actually two museums. Do they still have it that you got to pay separately for each one? The Natural History Museum and the Cincinnati Historical Museum?
I think it probably is, but nobody does that. Everybody just pays the whole... Mm-hmm. You get a deal on the whole thing, and then you can go to each one. I don't know how it's organized anymore. I went there like 10 years ago, and I thought the addition of these other things was pretty neat. But the funniest thing that happened there is that Sam fell down the steps for almost 5 minutes straight.
What do you mean fell down the steps for 5 minutes straight? How long were these steps? This
is the longest escalator I have ever seen. And he started going down.
Escalator's going, you could just keep falling on an escalator, wouldn't you? Couldn't you?
Yeah. He gets down there, and I'm like, Sam, we're not going down there. And I'm trying to call him back. Finally, he realizes that I want him to come back because we're not going there. But instead of stopping and going around on the up escalator, he just starts climbing. Sam is probably the clumsiest kid I've ever known. He he'll trip when he's not walking. He's just standing there. Somehow he trips. There's a YouTube video of him at a school recital thing where he's singing. And you can see him up there. He's on stage next to this girl. And he bumps into her. And then he just drops from sight. And like 3 seconds later, he pops back up again and just goes on as normal. This is one clumsy child. And he turned around and tried. Escalator. Yeah. He kept trying to get back up. And he kept falling. And he kept getting back up and trying again. I kept saying, Sam, stop. Just go all the way down. I had to come down and meet him to get him to stop falling. Anyway. Okay. How do we get on that? Museums.
Shrunken heads. Now, shrunken head, like, for example, that was like something that they took the heads of their enemies and they had a shrinking head process. This was like in like South America, right?
I think it took like a month. Yeah.
Yeah, and they would like sew their eyes and mouths shut and stuff like that, and I mean, I don't know whether there's any kind of demonic activity attached to that. I think the theory to them was that they were like keeping their enemies' souls inside of them so that they couldn't get out and in the form of another warrior or something like that.
One of the things is that anytime you see artwork on a vase or a bowl or anything functional, we say that this is just what they used to do this or that. Anytime there is a statue, it's like an assumption this was a god.
Oh, right.
And I wonder how often it was true. I mean, if I could sculpt, if I had any artistic ability at all, I would make people more than things.
Yeah, I mean, think of Granny B's old people.
Yeah, that's not collection. A god. That's just a couple old people.
Or actually, you know what?
I have to imagine people did this at one time.
If people 1,000 years from now work on that same assumption, they're going to think that we, worshipped geese or something like that.
Yeah, it's like, what's wrong with these people? They worshipped everything.
Yeah, we were pantheists.
Yeah, but we do know that they did worship a lot of these artifacts that we have, and we know that the worship of idols is a calling on of the devil.
Yeah, just like the Psalm says, all the other gods are demons.
And I think a year ago or 2 years ago at least, this conversation would have sounded a lot different because I didn't see the danger of it back then, at least. I didn't. I don't know about you. I didn't see how bad it could get. But when we've got false gods in the Vatican. Yeah. And it kind of, I thought, okay, we've got stories like St. Boniface.
Cutting the tree down.
Yeah, he cut, and it's a sacred tree. Nobody's allowed to cut the tree down, and he goes down and he chops it down. Right. And at, I don't even know how to say that, Esquidge, he was said to have destroyed a statue of an idol. Yeah. Saint Benedict, he built an altar on the remains of the, or he built a chapel on the remains of the altar to Apollo in defiance of these false gods.
Right. That's that's a common thing for missionary saints. They have they smash the idols.
They destroy.
They destroy them first. Smash the idols, and as far as places, they sacralize them. They take places that were dedicated to old gods or idols. They say, okay, this place needs to be cleansed because you've got evil attached to it. So what we're going to do is we're going to put an altar and offer the mass here and bless the place and get rid of all those evil spirits.
Now, the practice of doing that has kind of been mistranslated by scholars nowadays to where every single tradition they have, they will say it used to be a pagan tradition and we baptized it.
Oh,
and I don't think that's not the case.
I don't think we do that nearly as much as anybody believes we do. That the church, we the church.
we destroy the old customs and traditions, and we give them new ones.
Yeah.
But they're not based in any way on it. This used to be Apollo's place. I'm breaking Apollo, and now it's a chapel dedicated to St. Martin of Tours. And St. Martin of Tours was said to, there's some kind of axe or hammer that is said to have been St. Martin of Tours, where he would use it to smash idols.
Oh, okay.
And it's even got an inscription on it.
Oh, yeah, like
so
idol smasher. God smasher.
Yeah. I think maybe, I guess in the past 100 years, we've gotten to this point where it's like, well, we can accept that other people do these things and not bother them and not try to take away their idols. And I think I can't help feeling like us doing that is what led to them smashing our statues and destroying our churches all over the world right now.
Because
we should never have accepted that. Yeah. Satan would not
given
want
him power. We've allowed him to acquire power over people, and now they're smashing our idols, or not our idols. They're smashing our statues.
Yeah, and I start thinking about that, and then I think, well, what did we expect would happen when you're lenient on evil? Well, it's going to come back and bite you.
Yeah.
You have to fight evil.
Exactly. And I think people don't realize today, it almost seems like the Pope doesn't realize today, and I wonder, he probably doesn't, that there's no such thing as a live and let live with Satan.
Yeah, he's not going to. Yeah, that's not how it works.
Destroy his presence everywhere that you can. You've got to completely cast him out of your house. You've got to work hard to cast him out of your society. You've got to preserve the purity of the church so that Christians have a place, a community, spaces where they know he's not going to be around. And you have to keep pushing and pushing and pushing, because as soon as you stop, he's going to try to reclaim ground. That he doesn't want an accommodation. He doesn't want to be left to just do what he does. What he does is hate God and hate the church and want to destroy souls, especially holy souls.
I think it was a conversation between Satan and who was it? I believe it was one of the early desert monks.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe in the 300s, he had been fasting, and the devil was bragging to him, and he said, I've been fasting, and the devil said, well, I never eat. And he said, well, because they were arguing over why the devil hadn't gotten hold of him yet. And he said, it's because I fast. And the devil said, I never eat. And he said, I go days without sleeping. And the devil said, I never sleep. And he said, I work day and night and pray. And the devil said, well, I work nonstop. I never stop. And finally, the saint said, I have humility. And the devil couldn't understand that part of it.
Yeah, doesn't even get what that is.
I guess the point of all that is that the devil never stops.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't relax.
Yeah. He has no need to. He doesn't have a body. I mean, it's hard for people to think in those terms.
Right. You never, you work on something for a while, and then you take a break from it, and you retire for a while. No matter what it is you're doing. If I got a project, a hobby, or if it's actual work, or even if it's having fun, you still got to rest.
Yeah.
And you got to stop it and do something else for a while.
Yeah, you got to switch between tasks and refocus your attention from one thing to another. The devil doesn't have to do that.
No, it just keeps going and going, and it's working on society, and I think we're seeing the fruits of that leniency now.
That's a good point.
We're at a point where I don't even know what we could do about it other than starting back at the basics.
Well, we have the Mass. That's the basics.
Yeah.
I mean, the
Some of us
Mass
do.
is... yeah. They're trying to take that away now.
Yeah.
So then what about... everybody in school, even at Catholic schools, just for fun in English class, we do things like, for example, learn about the myths and the hierarchies of the gods of Greek, ancient Greece and stuff like that. And so, and maybe sometimes people learn about Egyptian gods or something. I don't think we ever did in school. But there's these ancient cultures, and it's interesting to people to know the cult of these ancient societies. That what did they actually believe? What did they worship? How did that worship come out? Is it even? I guess should a Christian even be interested in that kind of stuff?
Well, who was it? Hold on.
I mean, like Augustine talked about the pagan Romans, and he even, discussed the question of whether the Roman virtues, which were pagan but naturalistic, could they be considered as real virtues because they weren't supernatural? Stuff like that, But he clearly knew about them.
So
Aquinas would refer to Aristotle and stuff like that.
Test everything and hold on to what is good. Does that mean look at what things are being said? Does that mean study other cultures and see what they're doing?
Don't know. I always took that to mean like everything that other Christians are saying.
Okay.
Because Christians are going to come up with new ways, new forms of prayer. Like, hey,
right.
somebody wrote the prayer that we call the Hail Mary at some point. It wasn't.
Right.
It didn't exist with the apostles. Okay, so stuff like that. I always assumed it kind of applied to stuff like that. But in terms of human knowledge, sure, the more you know about other cultures, you may identify things that are naturalistically good in other cultures. For example, they always used this. They used this ritual in order to try to fix migraines. But hey, look, lo and behold, the plant that they used in the ritual was this plant, which is the source of aspirin or something like that. That kind of stuff can be useful, and I don't think that we should shy away from that. But I mean, just from like a dark interest, it's like,
that's what I was going to say. I think it might depend on the delivery. Sometimes there's like, okay, we learned a little bit about the gods and goddesses of ancient Greece and Rome. I don't remember being told that they sacrificed to these gods and that these gods were actually demons. There's the stories behind the gods, but they did make actual statues and they did sacrifice things to them.
They had altars,
whether
to these
it was
gods.
Money or animals.
Animals, right?
And that
was one
demonic.
of the big things the Romans insisted on was they wanted
Christians.
You can have your god, but you got to sacrifice to Jupiter,
and then they would kill you if you didn't.
Yeah.
So
you became the sacrifice then, I guess.
It wasn't presented.
It wasn't
that
harmless.
Way,
yeah. No, exactly. It was.
They didn't say, these were demons.
Right.
This was the devil, and they were sacrificing to the devil, and that's why we don't. That's why it stopped. That's why Christianity took over.
I mean, maybe that's the key. Maybe the whole thing is, as a Christian, we should approach every ancient or every contemporary pagan culture with that in mind. And so it's not so much a question of, wow, learn about some of the weird things people did. That's fascinating. It's more, wow, look at some of the different ways that Satan has worked within various human societies.
Yeah, I think it's so. I think there's no reason not to learn these things, but it should be learned in a Christian light. And we've stopped doing that probably, 60, 70, 80 years ago. Yeah.
Okay, so when it comes to artifacts, if it's a contemporary and we're in the act of converting, you're a missionary and you're working among people and they've got their idols and fetishes, and
like a
you're bringing them
Pachamama.
to the gospel. Yeah, you got a Pachamama. Okay, I am absolutely on. You've got to get them to destroy those idols as part of their conversion, or you've got to destroy them as part of waking them up to the, your message, the gospel. But older cultures that aren't any longer in practice, we find artifacts and that kind of stuff. So, what do you think? Is it better to destroy them or to exorcise them and then study them? And I
5 years ago, I would have
said,
them. Yeah, I 5 years ago, I would have said exercise them and study them. I wouldn't say that anymore.
So you think even after an exorcism, the wrong kind of attention to them can invite those demons back?
Okay.
Because it's not like you can bless them. It's not like
know.
you can take an idol and give it a sacred use the way you can take a space and do that by building an altar and saying, this is now a church. So, yeah, it remains an idol as long as it's intact.
If you think about it I know this is pretty much impossible, but try to think about it from God's point of view.
Mm-hmm.
I made these people. And instead of thanking me, they created their own thing and they worshipped it.
Yeah.
Instead of worshiping me, who created everything. The entire planet is mine and I created it all. Now, I know this old piece of clay that somebody made is interesting to you, but I made the entire universe. And that is offensive to me.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's a good way of looking at it, because this thing is something that humans made, and they made it out of evil intent.
Yeah.
They made it for the purpose of being evil. Now, in their minds, they might not have even been thinking in terms of good or evil, but what they were doing, the reason they were making it, what they were going about as they made it, is offensive to God. So the mere existence of the artifact, it's not like you find, it's not like you find some landmark or something like that, the natural landmark.
Yeah.
And somehow conclude that it's offensive to God or something. This is something that a person made.
Right.
So yeah, I gotta say, yeah, that from God's point of view, there probably isn't any benefit that we receive as a human race from saying, yeah, we should keep these things around.
So like, a million years from now, when we are either in hell or in heaven, will that artifact matter?
Yeah.
Saving it didn't do anyone any good, because everybody is either in hell or in heaven.
Right. And nobody made it to heaven because of the presence of that artifact.
Right. And that's the big goal. If you don't have that goal, then you're going down the wrong path. And so if it doesn't get you closer to heaven in any way, shape, or form, then it's not very important.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird. Seriously, 5 years ago, I don't think I would think that way. I know I wouldn't have thought that way.
I would doubt that there are 1,000 people in the entire world right now that think that way.
Yeah, I know.
That's the thing. That's what's so weird about this, is that, what we're saying is so completely extreme in terms of being counter-worldly.
Yeah.
And contrary to worldly wisdom. But I think once upon a time that it was probably what the church thought.
Yeah. And I think, or at least I hope, more and more people are like us and waking up to these things.
Yeah.
That at one time they didn't think was very important. Which is why we're doing this podcast.
Yeah. I guess, when you think about the saints and their knowledge of pagan cultures and that kind of stuff, it was always because they were familiar with the writings of people.
Yeah,
so
they would
preserve
Egypt.
The writings, but they wouldn't preserve, the idols would have to be destroyed, but the writings could be kept.
The Incas, the Aztecs, the Mayans, a lot of what we know is what was reported to us by the
Spanish conquistadors.
And I don't know if any of these people actually wrote or not. I don't think they did. Well, we know they had a calendar, and so
yeah, they had some kind of figure writing at least. Whether they had a true written language, I don't know. Yeah, that'd be another. But yeah, that exactly. So, but the thing is, when we're talking about artifacts and whether to destroy them, we're talking about idols and fetishes. We're not talking about standard housewares and stuff.
Yeah, and it doesn't knowing who they worshipped. I guess knowing that they sacrificed people, but knowing more about their religion doesn't really help us a whole lot know them. Some people would argue it does, but I don't think it does. We know they weren't Christians.
Right.
And we know that most cultures had sacrifices. A lot of them had human sacrifices.
And we know that most cultures who are non-Christian are fairly brutal cultures who value, strength and aggression and violence and stuff like that.
Yeah.
There's exceptions. I think there's a couple of North American Indian tribes that weren't like that.
There were a couple of them.
Not many. Not the majority by any stretch.
A lot of the ones who were that way because they had been beaten.
Oh,
they had been. It was in submission.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when you lack enough warriors to take on these giant tribes, then what are you going to do?
Yeah.
So you live peaceful. You pay tributes or taxes,
right,
to the tribe that you live
next to or whatever,
who owns the land that you're living on, which happened. I mean, they were paying taxes to each other before we got here.
Yeah.
They were paying for the privilege of living in certain areas, but they were still pretty brutal people.
Mm-hmm. Right. So yeah, knowing the specifics of the religion probably not that useful. Like I said, the most useful thing that you can get out of knowing other people's religions as a Christian is to understand the various ways that Satan subverts humanity.
Yeah.
And in this day and age, we don't have to go very far to see that because we kill our own babies.
It's around every corner. Yeah, we kill our own babies. And throughout just in the past 100 years, different cultures have tried to eliminate entire races. I mean, with Hitler and the Jews and the over in Rwanda.
Mm-hmm. Yep, the genocide in Rwanda.
It's actually, I mean, it happens. It's happened quite a few times, too many times in the past, just in the past 50 years. And some of it's bigger than other ones. But the other danger here is that studying this stuff, especially for someone who's not well grounded in his faith, is it's seductive.
Oh, right.
I mean, you're studying.
They did this ritual, and they claimed this happened when they did it. Huh? I wonder if that really happened.
They must have been getting something out of it.
Yeah.
So hey, let's try it.
That? Yeah, exactly. That's another good point.
Yeah, I just
I think I think you're right. I mean, I came to the conversation without having a strong opinion because it was just a question, and like I said, I started thinking about the question in terms of certain kinds of things, like when you're traveling, you might see, the example I said was Hawaii. If a fire dance is really some kind of worship ritual, is it okay to attend it? As a Christian, I kind of think, no, probably not. But when you think about the broader implications, I think idols need to be destroyed, even if they're old ones.
In this whole Amazon Synod, one of the guys they were praising throughout this thing was a native down there who most of the natives there had doing the ritual dances to their gods had been outlawed. And this guy made a big deal about doing them again and starting them back up.
Oh my!
And
yeah, that's not.
This is
go well.
one of the people there. Some of those displays they had, where they had the lady nursing some kind of animal,
nursing the dog
the pig
or whatever it was,
the dog or whatever it is.
Yeah, they had
one of the
disgusting
pictures
stuff.
was this guy, and I mean, I don't know what's going on where a church.
Yeah.
This talk is the kind of talk you would have with someone maybe newly Catholic or maybe even someone who's not Catholic, to explain to them why we would destroy idols. But it's the kind of talk you have to have with Catholics now.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and not just the kind of talk you
or
have
at
to
least
have. It's like
nobody's even thinking about it.
Yeah. Why isn't that the starting point for the Vatican's response to these things?
Yeah, it's a shame. I don't know what I get. Well, like you said, we got to return to the Mass, and we got to start there.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm going to throw a side topic onto this while we're at it, because I think it kind of ties in. But one of the things that almost everybody seems to be doing, and nobody seems to quite understand that they shouldn't be doing it, is this whole yoga stuff. In fact, you'll even see in Catholic bulletins people advertising Christian yoga. There's no such thing as Christian yoga, because yoga is Hindu worship. It's a series of moves that are meant to be acts of worship to their gods.
It is, and I have a really hard time trying to convince even conservative Catholics of that.
Yeah, that's no good. That you can't say, "Oh, okay, God, you know what? I know that these people over here made up these moves to worship their gods, and they've taught me their moves, and they're kind of fun, so I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing they do to worship their gods." I don't think that squares very well.
I don't think it does either. I mean, it's not even one of those things that they claim we quote baptized.
Yeah, we just.
They say the same things. We're going to make a snake or the dog or whatever the hell they
the dogs and the warriors and whatever else. We just we don't even baptize.
It's the same thing.
A Catholic thing. We just say, okay, we're gonna go do Hindu worship exercises now.
And we're just not going to say Om over and over again. That's the only difference.
Yeah, that's.
But I've always thought that, and I've tried to convince Christian friends of that, and I never quite know the words to get them to understand what they're doing.
Oh, right. I didn't realize until a couple years ago that that's what yoga was. I thought it was just a physical activity.
Well, that's what they keep saying. Well, okay, so maybe they did do that, but it's healthy, and I've never ever seen any scientific study showing that yoga is in any way, shape, or form healthy.
Yeah,
you can stretch
healthier
without
than any other
doing
kind
yoga.
Of stretching and exercise. Yeah,
right.
Strength
I mean,
training,
you do.
Whatever.
Everybody stretches before exercising. You don't need yoga to do it. But to spend a half hour just stretching?
Yeah, well, I guess
stupid.
Some of it's...
What are you trying to prepare your body to do?
Some of it's stretching and some of it's strength. So it's like stretching and strength together.
I thought it was all just stretch. Oh,
no,
okay.
No. But
lift weights or something.
Yeah, that's what I said. Go do some weight training or something. Some other kind of strength training. Do push-ups. I mean.
There are 5 billion different exercise routines.
Yeah, we don't need
ranging from
worship.
Jazzercise to Taibo. Let's not worship. What is it? A Hindu god?
They're Hindu gods. Yeah, but the Hindus have a lot of gods.
Yeah, they've got like a billion of them.
Yeah, and there's actually there is actually a Hindu, maybe a few, religious groups that are upset at people treating yoga like a mere physical exercise because they take that seriously.
Yeah, so it'd be like
if get people to stop doing that.
If a bunch of Muslims said, "Hey, we're going to have a mass because the bread tastes good," and
Yeah,
we're like,
or something like that. I
wait a
mean,
minute,
let's say
no.
they think there's some physical benefit from doing the things we do at Mass, and so they go do a Mass. We would be, first of all, offended, and second of all, here's the thing, even if there were some kind of physical benefit, they would be offended. They would never do that.
Right. But for some reason, Christians everywhere think it's okay to do yoga.
To worship Hindu gods. All right, that was my sideline. I just had to throw that in there while we were kind of on the same
good point.
discussion. Because you think about it, okay, ancient cultures, idols, blah, 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 but gosh, we're doing all this idolatry today, and Catholics are doing it.
Yeah, branching off that even more, here's the problem with yoga, aside from what we've already said, which is a pretty big problem. But, okay, so let's say you're not worshiping a Hindu god, but it sure seems to be a religion to me, the way yoga practitioners are.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, it's another form of self-worship.
Yeah, even to the extent that you're not worshiping gods, it's a way of life that is, you're right.
I have to do these things to my body because my body is so precious.
Yeah.
And it's like, you use your body to do God's will, and that's it. That's all. Yeah, I understand you want to take care of it, but
you want to be fit,
that's not
run.
The end goal.
Right. The fitness is to allow you to do God's work.
But people get so wrapped up into it.
So that you can move furniture when you need to, or defend your family when you need to. Stuff like that.
Help an old lady.
You do cardiovascular so that you can, keep your brain working long enough to get your work done during the day, and still say your prayers at night. Whatever. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. That's all I've got.
That's all I've got on that topic.
Okay. So we got current events. Big one everyone's talking about is Gamestop.
Oh.
Did you follow it? I think it's hilarious.
I didn't follow it as such, but I know what it is and what happened, and I think it's hilarious too. And I think it's a real the fact that the Wall Streeters circled the wagons.
Yeah.
It shows, oh, wait a minute, they are
telling.
Not interested in preserving a free market way of life. They are interested in preserving their positions as the wealth holders.
Right.
Which I guess you wouldn't expect anything else, but why would the SEC allow that kind of stuff to happen and people to get away with it? Now, maybe they're not going to get away with it. Maybe the SEC is going to bring a hammer down on them or something like that and have some hefty fines, but I doubt it. But this is the kind of thing that I would expect the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission, to say, no way that you were allowed to do that. I guess Roadrunner was the big one that halted trading on the GameStop stock. Robinhood, that's it. The Roadrunner's a internet thing. Robinhood. And
okay,
that's
yeah. Here's the thing. Starting on Monday, I've listened to 4 different podcasts or radio broadcasts describing what happened.
Uh-huh.
And none of them, not one of them, could say what a short sale is and what a short squeeze is.
When you do a short sell, what you say is, I promise to sell you this amount of stock for this amount of money at some time in the future. Let's say 6 months from now. So I'm gonna sell you, 1,000 shares of, who knows? Let's say Amazon stock.
GameStop.
Let's say GameStop. Okay, I'm going to sell you 1,000 shares of GameStop stock at a price of $50 a share 3 months from now. And the reason I'm going to do that, I'm not telling you this, but the reason I do that is because I'm convinced that the stock is only going to be worth $5 a share 3 months from now. So it's easy for me to buy up 1,000 shares at $5, sell them to you at $50, and then I make $45 per share, $45,000. The problem with short selling, the reason it's dicey, is that unlike a long position where I think GameStop's going to go up, so I'm going to buy it now, and then I'm going to wait for it to go up. Well, let's say that the bottom drops out and it becomes completely worthless. Well, I'm limited in my loss because my loss is whatever I spent on it right now. But the problem with a short sell is that your loss is unlimited. I promise to sell you those shares at $50 a share 3 months from now, and I'm obligated legally to do that, whether those shares at that time cost $50 or $500 or $5,000 a share. In other words, my liability to
you
loss
have to
is
get those
completely
stocks
unlimited.
back.
I have to get them
give them
somehow
back to
to
them.
sell them to you. Yeah.
Yeah.
So whatever the market price is at that time, that's what I'm going to buy them at so that I can sell them to you at our agreed price. And so I'm completely open and vulnerable and unlimited in my loss when I'm in a short position.
So
That's
you have 1,000 shares of GameStop, say, and they're worth $4 a piece. And I say, I want to buy these from you at $4 a piece, but I guarantee to sell them back to you at $10 a piece, or I guess $5 a piece.
Well,
to make
you're not necessarily buying them from me. All you're doing is guaranteeing.
You're borrowing them.
Not even that. All you're doing is guaranteeing that you will find and sell me X number of shares at a future date at an agreed price. That's all it is.
Why would I guarantee you that?
Because
I know. You have them.
No, I don't even have them necessarily. The only reason that you're guaranteeing that is because you're convinced, based on market trends and the other things going on in the world, that the share price is going to be a lot lower at that time. That's the bet.
So I'm guaranteeing.
All you're doing is promising to sell me shares at a future date at a given price. That's all it is. You're not
Wait a minute. Okay, now I'm lost. You don't have any shares,
right?
But I'm going to sell you shares at $5 a piece because I think they'll be worth a penny a piece,
right?
Okay,
and I say,
so
yes,
I buy them for
a
penny a piece, and then you have to pay me the $5 a piece.
Right. Which I already know exactly what I'm going to pay you for those. They might be worthless. Okay, so I lost that, but my loss is limited to the $5.
Your loss is $5. Okay.
Now, let's say instead they go up to $100 a share. You still got to sell them to me for $5.
I have to. It's not so much that I have to sell them to you for $5, but the fact that I have to obtain them, which means I have to buy them
in order to sell them,
and they could be
yes.
$1,000 each, and now I'm way in over my head.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's say me and a whole bunch of other people said, let's short sell GameStop.
Mm-hmm.
We guarantee somebody, a whole bunch of people, that we're going to pay $5 a piece for them because we think they're going to be worth pennies soon.
Right. And
now,
it's not
the price,
individualistic. There are other people who are doing corresponding long option buys and that kind of stuff, and it's all kind of.
But the thing is,
the exchange. It's not an individualistic pair for
somebody
pair thing like that.
Somebody says, okay, these guys are betting that the price goes down, so I'm going to get a bunch of people to buy them, which will cause the stock price to go up.
Yeah.
And that is a short squeeze.
Yes.
And the more the price goes up, the more people say, hey, I want to get in on this. And more people buy them.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually, the guys who were selling short are way over their heads and need to be helped out, which is what happened.
Right. Except, they want to be helped out.
They wanted to be helped out, and Robinhood, Ameritrade,
said,
and Wedbull,
yeah,
they all helped them out. So, what this is a bunch of people who make money no matter what because they have all the money, and usually when you sell short, if it happens enough, you cause the stock to go down. Sometimes.
Possibly, yeah.
Because the margin, there's a margin for stocks, and if say 15% of the stock of a company is in a short sale, those are signs that the company's going downhill, and it causes the company to continue going downhill because everybody dumps their stocks.
Yeah.
And with everybody dumping it, the price goes down.
Right.
Everybody's trying to buy it, the price goes up.
Right.
Everybody's trying to sell it, the price goes down. So these giant hedge fund managers target companies and say, well, this is going down and we can move it along a little bit faster.
Right.
That's what these guys at on the Reddit were trying
the opposite of that. Yeah.
Yeah. They were competing with these guys. Now they won.
The hedge fund managers, here's the thing, the hedge fund managers, trying to sell a lot of the stock does cause it to go down, but I don't think that there was a collusive effort to say, okay, everybody, let's get together and let's force it down. I think they were just betting on the realities of the market being, given
possibly not
COVID,
for GameStop
given that games
yeah.
are turning into internet-loaded things instead of disc things and so forth. They're just betting, okay, GameStop's time has come. GameStop is going the way of Blockbuster. Let's go ahead and make some money off it by selling short. I think that was their whole game.
My understanding that usually hedge funds is like insurance. So if I buy stock betting that the stock will go up, if it goes down, I'm going to lose. So I also do some short sales, and if it goes down, then I also win.
Yeah, they hedge.
I thought
right. They try to.
That's a lot of what hedge funds are.
Right.
Okay. Well, anyway,
at least they limit their risk, their exposure. Right. By hedging.
So I think it went up to like
$400 or something like that. $500. Yeah.
I'm seeing report. I checked it a couple times. I saw it over the weekend. It was like $350, and then I think it went up to $500.
I wish I had been invested in GameStop or GameStop.
Yeah,
stock.
I do too. $4 a share to $500.
Yeah.
Wow. So anyway, I don't know. It's nice seeing little stories like that once in a while, but it's disturbing the way they circled the wagons. Like
this is an example where the real American way would be, hey, you know what, you know, that's the way the market works. People are allowed to get together and this isn't insider trading or anything like that. This isn't knowing,
and it's not a bailout.
Some secret within GameStop. It's not a bailout. These, people can get together and decide that they're going to buy stock together. And if that causes it to go the wrong way for you, well, okay, you've got to be an investor who knows your limits and knows your risks. That's just the way it is. To allow the trading companies to halt trading on a specific stock in order to protect a specific class of investors, to me, that's what's unconscionable in America.
Right. Yeah. It's a shame. But this is the new America.
Yeah.
Well, it's not the new America. This is the same old America. It's just we didn't realize how bad it was for a long time. Donald Trump brought all this to light, and now we know.
Well, yeah, and I think the thing is, there was a time when what we would call there was like this association of conservatism with business and industry and that kind of thing, whereas liberalism was the more. It wasn't conservative liberal; it was Republican Democrat. The conservative liberal sort of ideals hadn't developed yet, but Republicans were more associated with business, industry, and so forth, and liberals more associated with agrarian. I've said this before. Old money versus new money. The Democrats were old money. The Republicans were new money. But there's now it's kind of like there's now you could see it as a third party that has developed, which is the business side of old money. That basically the business and industry has grown into a financial markets sector, which is the Wall Streeters, who are no longer really on the side necessarily of American industry. They're not allies with the American industrial sector because they favor the broader globalization because that's how they make more money. And so they've turned into the same old money mentality of, hey, we have the entitlement, the right, and the we are the rightful holders of this power, this wealth, and so forth. And so part of keeping the world in its right place is for us to hold on to our money and wealth and power, which is exactly what the Democrats have always been.
Yeah.
So I think what's happening is that there is a subtle. I really think that there's a unspoken but subtle alliance occurring between the power-holding Democrats and the power-holding Wall Streeters, which includes a lot of Republicans. And the whole game is, let's make sure that the establishment stays established and that we continue to keep our entitlement to this power.
Yeah, I think it's been there for quite some time. I just don't think we knew about it.
Yeah, could be. I mean, it could easily have been, even like back in the 1890s during the, some of the bank failures then.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff was going on then. And so this kind of, these kinds of arrangements may have been in nascent form then.
Yeah. Okay, moving on. New York Attorney General Letitia James releases a report accusing the state of undercounting the number of COVID-19 deaths in nursing homes. So that's Cuomo was underreporting the number of people dying in nursing homes in the big nursing home massacre in New York.
Is anybody
state.
Surprised? I mean, the guy sent all those people to their deaths.
I mean, what he did report was criminal.
Yeah, I know. It's like...
So, I don't know.
It's so much worse, last week than he reported.
I know. Last week we talked about Google and Australia kind of duking it out a little bit. Mm-hmm. So Google has removed major Australian news sites from its search results.
Oh, wow.
For a time. And the Australian Competition and Consumer Commission releases a report accusing Google of misusing its advertisement system to promote Alphabet Inc.'s own financial interests. I don't know what Alphabet Inc. is, but the Australian Competition and Consumer Commission is going after Google.
Okay. Interesting.
So things are happening over there. I think something good could happen there.
It could, yeah.
I think a country could be free of Google and in that void create something new.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
discover how to live without Google. That would be a good thing.
So the United Kingdom formally launches a visa scheme to get Hong Kong residents with British national passports. Well, British national overseas passports.
Okay.
And their families
out of Hong Kong?
Yeah, on the fast track to UK citizenship.
Because of the whole China thing, right?
Yeah. China's upset about that and saying... Also, China is saying that it will no longer recognize British national overseas passports as legal travel documents. So, I don't know. It's a shame.
Yeah, well.
So, I see this one, but I didn't look. I couldn't find the story, really. There were protesters marched in Rochester, New York, after a 9-year-old girl was handcuffed and pepper sprayed by police.
Really? I don't remember hearing about that one.
See this one. See, the way they report things sometimes. Like, there was a case in Cincinnati where a girl was tased by a cop. And what had happened is, he was in Kroger's, she had stuffed a bunch of crap in her book bag and was walking out with it. And the cop's like, hey, stop. And this was I think it was a 7-year-old girl. And she said no and started running. He's a 50-year-old man. He's yelling at her to stop. She doesn't stop. He tases her. Mm-hmm. I think that's okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. When you go into the store, steal stuff, and then the cop tells you to stop and you don't stop, I think tasing is not all that offensive. But I don't know about this one. A handcuff and pepper spray? Or did she get pepper sprayed and then they put handcuffs on her? Right. The way they report these things, you never know. I should have looked into it before I started talking about it.
Well, I'm kind of reading
but anyway,
about it
there's
right now
more.
While you're talking.
Okay. There's more marches in Rochester, New York. Now, these guys can tear down all kinds of stuff, and they're not accused of sedition and all these other crazy things. That was my point of it, is that when Republicans do it, we're trying to overthrow the government. But Democrats do it, and they tear down police barricades, and they harm people, and they burn down buildings and break things, and it's a protest.
I don't know. It's all in the labeling. Yeah, I guess it was a family disturbance. She was threatening to harm, it says harm, I don't know what that meant, herself and her mother, and the police were trying to get her, they had her handcuffed, they were trying to get her into the car, but she was kicking and screaming and shoving back and not getting into the car. They wanted to take her to the hospital, and finally one of them said, he said, you're acting like a child, but if you're going to keep doing this, I'm going to use the pepper spray. And so finally, after she wouldn't settle down, he did, so they could take her to the hospital, which is where they took her, and that did the trick.
Okay. That's not such a bad
I have a
thing.
hard time seeing it as such a bad thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
hey, you want to behave that way, there are consequences.
Yeah. I mean, she's a 9-year-old girl who I guess her mother was afraid of enough to call the police.
Yeah.
So,
let's see. In Germany, they called 14,000 turkeys because of H5N8.
Yeah.
So
that's
still going.
So, this is in Germany. Where did it first show up? Is this another China one?
No, it's that one we've been talking about every
I know.
week.
I'm trying to remember where it first. I know it's the new flu
somewhere
one,
in Asia. I don't know.
It was another Asian one. It started in Asia.
I think it was Japan. Either Japan or China. I don't know.
Okay.
But it's an Asian
still.
one.
Yeah. All right.
Let's see. Bill Blair, the Canadian Public Safety Minister, announces that 13 groups are designated as terrorist organizations, including Proud Boys.
Well,
Proud Boys is now a terrorist organization. I've never heard them ever promote violence, other than in self-defense.
Yep, me neither. But you know what? They're against. They don't give the likes of Antifa and Black Lives Matter free reign to just destroy people's homes. And so
that's terrorism.
That's terrorism.
They're terrorizing rioters.
Yeah.
So
they're terrorizing communists.
Yeah. All right, that's all I got.
All right. Well, I got let's see. This one's kind of cool. I sent you these, so any of them that are visual we can put on our site. Okay. So Disney's Frozen. Now, I mean, there are so many computers and models and stuff used in cartoons these days. Well, I guess there was a incident in Russia in 1959. Kind of a little bit of a mystery what actually happened, but some hikers were killed during an expedition into the Ural Mountains in Russia.
What were killed?
Some hikers.
Oh, okay.
Nine hikers. And so the Snow Avalanche Simulation Laboratory is reaching out to Disney because of some of the some of how realistic their modeling of snow was in the movie Frozen. And so they're reaching out to them to collaborate on modeling what might have happened to these hikers. Kind of neat.
Oh.
One of those things. So, when we were little, stray cats came around. Sometimes we'd try to feed them or catch them or put out milk for them or whatever.
Yeah.
So a woman, 78-year-old woman, is being sued by her condominium association for feeding a stray cat. I guess
the condo people are suing her because she fed a stray cat.
Yep, I guess they have a rule about attracting and feeding stray cats and animals in and around the common areas. So they're suing her over doing it.
I hate things like homeowner associations and stuff like that.
Me too.
But if they're going to exist and they're going to have retarded, stupid laws that tell people what they can do with their houses, I can see that. Mm-hmm. I can see not letting them feed stray cats because stray cats are a problem.
They're a real pain.
They go in your garage and they have litters and make messes and they're nasty and they have fleas.
Mm-hmm.
I was watching one of those Alaska police shows, and there was a guy who got a ticket because he kept feeding bears.
Wow.
He kept setting out these giant bags of cat food for the bears. Yeah, the grizzlies. He would come out and there'd be like 20 grizzlies in his backyard.
Oh, man. That's a danger to the townspeople. I mean, cats are just annoying.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So don't feed bears.
Yeah, don't feed bears. All right. Next, I've got... Okay, so do you know what haggis is? The Scottish dish?
Huh? Is it a
It's a
meal?
Yeah. It contains sheep's or calf's offal, mixed with suet, which I don't even know what that is, oatmeal and seasoning, boiled in a bag. Traditionally made from the animal's stomach. So you take the animal's guts, stick them into the stomach, add a few other ingredients, and boil it, and you get haggis.
Okay.
Kind of a innards pudding, if you think of it that way.
That's
anyway.
Gross.
So there is something called Burns Night in Scotland. I'm going to look up real quickly what that is too. A Burns Supper is a celebration of the life and poetry of the poet Robert Burns, the author of many Scots poems. Suppers are normally held near his birthday, January 25th, so that must be Burns Night. Okay, so Robert Burns Night. Some fellows in Scotland managed to get a bag of haggis almost into space. It's actually on a weather balloon that's about 20 miles high.
Yeah, weather balloon wouldn't go into space.
No, it's as high as you can get on the edge between space and the atmosphere because it needs the atmosphere for lift.
But it pops.
But there is a bag of haggis that was carried up by the weather balloon. Yep, 20 miles. So, think of this. This is like 5 times as high as the peak of Mount Everest.
Yeah.
Four or 5 times.
When they get a weather balloon that high up, do they somehow control it to stay at a certain height or make it come back down, or do they just keep letting it go up until it pops?
I think as it goes up, I think they're sort of self-moderating. So the material, if it's, I don't know whether it's a stiff material or if it's an expandable material like a real balloon, but if it's expandable, what would happen is that as it goes up and the pressure on the outside goes down, it would expand out further, and that process would eventually allow it to equalize, within the atmosphere.
Oh.
I don't know if that's how they really work.
I saw one that went higher and higher until it popped.
Oh, did it? A weather balloon?
Well, yeah, because they had the camera pointing up at the balloon, and then you watched it, and it got to the point of being almost in space, and then it popped, and then the camera dropped. But maybe certain materials will do that, and the other ones will do what you're saying. Like Could be. It has more weight on it, maybe it never gets to that point where it's going to...
Yeah. Or pop. If the material is such that it'll stretch to a maximum amount and then hold.
Then stop stretching. Yeah.
Something like that. So, yeah. All right.
It'd be neat being high. like
Haggis,
that.
Haggis and I guess after it reached 107,000 feet, it fell back to the earth at nearly 200 miles an hour before the parachute opened up. I guess it had a parachute on it or something. So
I wonder
it was
if they
also
recovered it.
probably the
if they ate
fastest
it.
moving haggis in the world.
Yeah.
It does not say whether they recovered and consumed it.
I mean, being that high, it could land
Anywhere.
land in an ocean or something.
Right.
Probably did land in the
Yeah,
ocean.
probably. Just given the relative surface areas, ocean and
Yeah.
land. Okay. Third, this is kind of... You might want to actually put this visual on if you can, but I guess very rarely, but nonetheless, once in a while, it snows in the Sahara Desert.
Oh, okay.
And it made these weird
'cause it
lines along the sand dune, which, what's weird is that looking at some of these lines, I'm going to push play and see. Okay, it's just somebody kind of walking along. I'm not going to keep playing it. So these lines, the way they sort of bend and meet up and stuff, almost kind of reminds you a little bit of, if you look in real detail at fingerprint lines in some ways.
Yeah. Okay. That is pretty neat. I guess it gets real cold there at night, and if there's moisture, which there usually isn't, but if there is, it could turn to snow.
Turn into snow, yeah. So, anyway, kind of neat little thing.
Have you ever seen a snow roller?
A snow roller?
Yeah.
Is that a machine or a phenomenon?
No, it's a phenomenon.
No, I don't think I have.
And it is the weirdest thing I have ever seen. I was driving out to Indy one day, and along the road there were these rolls. It looked like somebody had started making a snowman.
Oh yeah.
And some of them were like 2 feet high, 2 feet big.
Wow.
And some of them were real small, but they were
like
everywhere.
the wind pushes like a little particle something, and then it just starts clumping and keeps getting pushed by the wind.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's outrageous.
It was
That's
so
wild.
weird. I'll put some pictures of some on the website, but I witnessed it. I was like, it was scary. I mean, there's all these little snowballs everywhere. And it's obvious they left trails and stuff, so you could see where they had been rolled, but there's no footprints.
Yeah.
It was the weirdest thing.
The ghosts are playing building snowmen.
By the time I got to Cincinnati, they were gone. By the time I got to Indianapolis, they were gone.
Oh, okay.
So it's like it was only between the two cities that I saw them. Mm-hmm. But it was a weird thing.
That is weird. I've never seen that. All right, you know what?
I've only seen it once.
This nonsense news episode is very heavily because we got the whole Disney Frozen thing. We did the Sahara snowfall, and my last one is kind of cool ice bubbles in a frozen lake in China. And I'm just trying to think, how does the water... First of all, where did the bubbles come from? Why are there bubbles coming up from the bottom of this lake? And then how does the water freeze so fast that these bubbles get caught?
Well, wouldn't it maybe like you have... Maybe it like freezes in layers?
That could be.
So you've got the top layer freezes, and you've seen bubbles come up.
They kind of rest.
The layer.
They rest under it a little bit, and then maybe the layer underneath it freezes, and then that could be that might be what it is.
It does look pretty cool though,
because they go down. It looks like a couple feet.
Yeah, they do. They just one after another going down.
That's it's just kind of neat. I don't know what that other thing is that they're showing on the video. This is a video, guys, that plays, and I guess it's maybe showing the bigger context of the lake.
I'll capture the video, or I'll either put the video or I'll probably just capture a picture, because that's all they need to see, really. It's a still thing. But, it's the fact that ice floats is one of those quirky things that kind of defies everything else that we know.
Yeah, because
but
almost
makes
everything
possible.
Else gets pulled tighter together when it gets colder. But water, when it turns from liquid to solid, the structure makes it less dense.
Yeah. So when we would melt lead, if you put a chunk of lead in there, it sinks straight to the bottom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because it's hardened and it's
yeah.
more compact. And then as it melts, then it comes up. And here water does the opposite, which means that fish can continue living down at the bottom of the lake when the ice is frozen over.
Mm-hmm.
There's all kinds of little things like that make life possible.
Yeah, yeah. And I guess a lot of them have to do with properties of water.
Yeah.
Speaking of fish did I ever tell you the story on this podcast about a buddy of mine up in Michigan told me when he was a kid, one of the bays that they would go to once in a while to go ice fishing, and the bay itself was like covered with ice, and they were going to do that, but
just like on one of the Great Lakes.
Yeah, and
okay.
Out further, there was a strong wind, and it, like the parting of the Red Sea, they say was caused by a strong wind that it was so strong that it along the surface of the water, it actually moved the water to one side and left dry ground. Well, it did that. It created it pushed enough of the water to one side of the lake away from where this bay was, so that all the water underneath the ice had gone, and the ice was on the floor of this bay. And so they'd go around, and they could just walk around and look through the ice and see the fish, excuse me, where the fish were. And so they would see one and drill down and get it, throw it in the bucket, and see another one, drill down. Now the problem is they had to drill a hole for each individual fish they got, so it wasn't a very efficient way of collecting fish. But
there's a
kind of freaky.
There's a nature show, and I can't remember which one it is, but it has these two women. I don't know where it is. It's where it's cold.
Uh-huh.
And it's close to, I believe it's close to the ocean. So the top freezes over.
Right.
And then the tide goes out. And now there's maybe 2 feet of ice there. And then under that is nothing.
No water. Yeah.
So they would drill down into that and then crawl down in that giant cave that's there.
It didn't sink to the ground.
Right.
The structure kept it up. Oh, wow. That would be scary.
So they would go under there and gather clams and stuff like that.
Uh-huh.
And then they had X number of minutes before the tide comes back, and they got to get out of there. That would be scary as all get out.
I would be so afraid. I mean, I know a couple feet of ice is
deadly.
Well, I'm thinking it's
heavy.
It's unlikely to break.
Yeah, I know.
But I would still be scared.
But the whole thing could,
like if it broke around the edges and collapsed or whatever.
Yeah,
Gosh,
I mean, it's
I
a
would
lot
be
of
scared.
weight.
Yeah.
I would not go under there, but they do it. Like, apparently it's a thing.
It's just a thing, huh? Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah. Okay. Is that it?
That's it. I don't have anything else.
That's it. All right. Well, I guess think about what we said, and we'll talk to you next week. We don't have anything planned for next week, do we?
We don't, but I was thinking about sometime I'd like to do one on the idea on concupiscence and what exactly it is and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that would be a good one.
Okay, so
all right,
I'll plan on that next
week. So next week, hopefully, talk about concupiscence. I'm good at that.
All right.
I have a lot of concupiscence.
I do too. All right, everybody. Remember, circle the beads.
Circle the beads, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.